in game 1, TES going with the split, pushing, poking, wave clearing composition, while LNG just playing to the late game, grouping up as a ball and just sprinting it down. And now, coming into game 2, we've missed part of the draft, unavoidable circumstances. And really we can see quite a large divergence coming in from TES's lineup. Now they have kind of the diving tools. They've got the Silas into the Syndra, interestingly enough. And then meanwhile LNG do have the Olaf into the Volibear. So pretty strong early jungles for both. Quite lane-centric jungle coming up from TES as the bans come through is going to be the Ziggs LNG, despite having the counter pick in the vein, are not interested in the least in playing against that disgusting Ziggs champion, especially I suppose considering the fact that actually I'm not quite sure. I think they did pretty well against it, but maybe they really identified the differences in TES's composition right now, and so that maybe not. As the bans come through, obviously a Senna ban because of the Thumb Kench. This is before Thumb Kench was changed, I do believe, so this is not going to be the Thumb Kench with the knockup as its W. This still has its Devour for W. Meanwhile, TES, they can ban out another AD carry here. They can look to ban out a top laner. There is, of course, the Gwen, the Akali, and the Camille, which Ale is extremely proficient in, as well as the Jax, and the Gwen ban does come in, of course. Now they're probably gonna pick their AD carry over here. Probably wouldn't be too much of a stretch to choose. I don't know. The Aphelios is still there, but paired up with Leona, you could go for Draven. Is a bit flippy. You could go for, let's see, Ezreal, Ashe, or maybe they'll just go with their top laner and last pick their AD carry. Interesting option. Kind of leaves open the Draven potential as a Cassio lock-in comes in. What is the meaning of this? This is a I'm not quite sure who's going where, honestly, and maybe that was the point that LNG were trying to drive home. Meanwhile, on the side of TES, they could potentially opt for this could still be a lane top Thumb Kench, and they could go for the Aphelios Thresh over here. But it looks like they like the amount of damage they have, oddly enough, and go for the Ashe instead. Ashe providing a lot of utility. Meanwhile, for what I expect to be the top lane pick, perhaps we'll see a Jace here. Blinding Jace is not so incredibly bad, I suppose, especially when you're against what most likely seems to be a ranged AP carry top lane. But eventually, it looks like they will go with the either Lucian or the Silas. I don't know. I suppose they'll put more emphasis in putting Knight onto a winning matchup. Lucian can go against both the Cassio as well as the Syndra. In fact, can go quite comfortably into it, as Ale now hovering the Irelia. Also has the Camille option as well as the Akali option. So honestly, Ale is in a very comfortable position right now, and he can just go any which way he proposes to, and it turns out he will go onto Irelia. Quite a heavy emphasis on the magic damage coming out here from LNG. This is quite a unique draft if I have ever seen one, because of course Leona's passive gives you additional damage, but that damage is also stacked as AP if I'm not mistaken. A good percentage of it is. Meanwhile, if I'm not mistaken, Irelia's passive also makes her do partially AP damage. So really, some very heavy emphasis coming in onto the AP damage from the side of LNG. Let's see how this game goes. Game 1 was a really long, relatively passive game up until it got to the later moments when TES unfortunately had to flounder and flail around before eventually being destroyed by LNG. Now, game 1 is behind us. We are looking now on to the second game. Runes, for now, are looking pretty normal, pretty average. Interesting, we get to see the Cassio come out here. This was, of course, LNG's counter pick into the Silas. So, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Theoretically, it would be... Honestly, I'm quite surprised that they didn't just opt for the Silas up to match in the top side. As we see, Ale had his flash forced out by a death bush coming out of TES. So already a bit of a small advantage acquired up towards the top side. Although, truth be told, I don't think that's going to change the game plan up too much, because it does appear that TES is going to put a heavy emphasis up towards the top side. Tarzan is meanwhile going to start leashed towards the bottom side, most likely to try and get a full clear going. Because, of course, in a ranged versus melee matchup, really, it's meant to go in advantage of the range, but Ale will have kill potential come level about 3, 4, and then again come level 6 and every point beyond that. And as soon as the Irelia overpowers the Lucian, you're going to be in a terrible position if you are the Lucian, because you're just going to be pretty much cannon fodder. Especially, oh, nice jump in now from Ale, having his passive stacked up into 5, and look, already he is just simply auto-attacking down 369, who now is going to get return damage, tons of it down, chunking Ale back to the same amount of HP. Fortunately, Unfortunately, however, for 369, he does have the biscuits along with his potion and Doran's Blade. Meanwhile, in the bot side, looks like a little bit of engage coming through. Sorry, this is the upgraded Tam Kench as the W comes through, knocking up Light, forcing out a flash as well as the heal. So already summoner spell advantages across the board. Karsa's playground has just expanded exponentially, but it still looks like he is going to be playing more towards the top side. Most likely nothing's going to happen here, however, as Tarzan is playing towards that side as well. Mid lane priority is looking pretty even across the board. So right now, it's gonna be quite a scary part of the game. Mid game is gonna be really scary for the members of LNG, especially if you are anyone but Tarzan, because there's a Ash arrow coming in for you. You're all relatively squishy, and the follow up with the, I don't remember what the Tom Kench W is. I'm gonna say something to do with the depths, could be quite catastrophic. And now 369 with priority up towards the top side means Karsa can come and contest level 3 Karsa against a level 4 Tarzan. I'm not sure if you win this because Olaf, of course, gets much stronger as he goes down in levels, but Karsa actually getting the first split despite being down in levels because of the sheer burst damage and the consistent healing coming out of his W. And now Ale just trying his best to shove out this wave, ensure there is no dive coming through. The members of TES are still going to try a nice blaze dance coming through, stunning out both members as Karsa steps forward, stunning out Ale right under tower. Karsa forcing his flash out in that last moment. One wouldn't have been able to survive, and now another tower shot. And already game 2 is off to a whooping start for TES. And as I mentioned at the end of game 1, TES need to learn from the mistakes of Suning, and they need to just play as early game as possible. Snowball elite, start stacking objectives and just get the game rolling. Do not let LNG get to that mid-game power spike point where they just come together as 5 and are just practically seemingly unbeatable come the tail end of the regular season and into the playoffs. And interesting enough, Karsa just fully unloading onto Tarzan here, who just couldn't fight back because of course he was stunned. And Karsa just throwing paws out there, and surprisingly, I think even Ale felt quite safe here when the dive attempt was considered. And Ale actually just trying to jump in. Maybe he would have been better if he tried to clear out the wave instead of go on to both Karsa and 369, because getting the stun off from Karsa is what killed him. If he just kept his distance, used the minion wave as best as he could, there is a slight chance that something could have happened. But now the lane is going to get even harder. Knight is doing his job just by keeping Icon in lane, or vice versa. So meanwhile, Karsa has tons of avenues to look for, especially as previously mentioned, once Jackie Love hits level 6. And the interesting thing is none of the squishy immobile AP carries on the side of LNG opted to go for cleanse. They both opted to go for teleport and heal, and yeah, against a Ashe, that might be a huge mistake to be made. So now Ale is going to be suffering up towards the top side. There is no denying that. But all he needs really is for 369 to teleport down bot lane, get killed, and him to get about 20-30 CS by himself, get a couple items, just get half an item, even one item, and Ale is actually going to have tons of kill pressure onto 369. And as soon as that happens, really things start to fall apart. That necessitates the amount of pressure, that necessitates the amount of attention, that TES is putting up towards this top side. That's exactly why we see Karsa moving up, and we see Knight rotating as well from the mid lane, trying to get as much vision taken out of the LNG side of the jungle, so that the second he steps into the jungle, the members of LNG towards the top side, which right now is Ale and Tarzan, need to stop panicking. They need to be like, where is Knight? I can't see him, guys. Meanwhile, Icon in the mid lane also needs to stop pressuring Knight as best as he can. Does need to be careful, however, as Knight is most definitely going to look for an opening to kill him. Down towards the bot side, we can expect nothing but farming, as look, Tarzan literally has to stand under the tower holding Ale's hand in order to ensure that his top laner does not get Doven again. Both junglers kind of losing out in this, but overall I would say Ale is definitely losing out more because he's had to share quite a bit of his experience with 369. Not to mention, that's not even considering the amount of experience that he has already lost towards the bottoms, due to the dive, as in comes a very beautiful knockout coming in from Zoa, knockout both Light and I want it. Again, the heal comes down, Flash is almost available again from Light. It's already almost been 5 minutes, but Zoa is actually taking tons of damage back. In comes the great health shield, exhaust thrown down as well, but I want it, having blown his ignite onto Zoa, will have nothing left, as again another potential dive attempt, but nothing's going on. Ale with the ultimate coming through, jumping onto Karsa, actually looking for an opportunity to kill, does manage to pick up Karsa, and now a little bit low on mana, no cooldowns available. Also, we have turned onto 369 as well, as the culling comes down. 369 trying to find avenue, trying to find a place to jump in onto Ale. Does have flash available. Unfortunately, it looks like he does not see a way to jump in, and Ale, fantastic outplay. This is exactly why we love to see this man. He legitimately plays so well. LNG, they just casting them gets me excited, and this is beautiful because Tarzan now gets to take away some CS from Karsa, gets to take away the red buff, gets to pillage part of the bot side. Iwandi now has paired up with Tarzan, and now Knight is finding a terrible time to jump in, and he's just going to trade ultimates with the Cassiopeia, but just sets up Iwandi for the easiest Zenith Blade of his life. I'm pretty sure he might not even have had to flash over there, and then coming out into the Miasma, there's just nothing that he could have done. The timing was just awful, and really, it's just unfortunate turn of events coming out there from TES's star mid laner. And right now, from things going so heavily in favor of TES, LNG have just brought it back, and Ale actually hitting level 6 off of that one minion, and then seeing the potential to jump in, stacking up his passive onto the minions, and then just using his W to tank up all of the damage through the stun. And honestly, if he had one more Blade Surge available, 369 would have most likely been dead there as well. Looks like there is going to be a bit of a rotation coming out from Zor, as well as Rift Herald has spawned, which beckons the top laner and jungle to play around this mid and top area, trying to get vision, trying to ensure both of their carries get the prio they need. But Karsa, feeling strong right now, is going to start up Rift Herald. Top priority is still in favor of 369, even though the goal lead has shrunk significantly. He still has the ability to push because of the range advantage. Look at the CS differential, which honestly is to be expected. And if you just look at the goal, Ale is doing a fantastic job, and LNG opt to call this one off, allowing TS to pick this up, which honestly it can be not such a bad thing, because so far LNG have practically lost nothing. Ale is coming back very nicely, only lost 2 playthings and has only died once. The top lane pressure has been quite immense on the side of LNG, and Tarzan so far has been able to trade very nicely across the map. And if you look towards the bot side, look at the vision control that LNG have in TES's bot side of the map. They've got wards on the camps, they've got control wards in the Raptors bush, and Zor is just absolutely frantic looking for people. That's why he's warding up his bot side jungle, trying his best to keep Knight alive. But if you see that pink ward where LNG have in the bot side, 369 jumping in, but unfortunately I think he is being baited into his death. Tarzan not quite sure which way to go, as Knight and Karsa are making their way up as well. They've been spotted on a ward placed down there. Iwandi has recalled and is actually coming up. Zor is doing the same thing, but it's on the wrong side, as 369 face checks into a very angry Olaf Ragnarok, and Roll comes in, flash over the wall. Undertow from over the wall as well follows and clips 369 right between the shoulder blades, as he is taken down, swung and cut before Iwandi could even get into position. And right now LNG are just showing you that even though I say their early game is their weakest point, that is perhaps not even the point that TES can use, can leverage, can pivot off of in order to secure themselves a victory in this game. And things are looking a little bit dire. Although the gold lead is only 300 gold, I'm saying LNG, perhaps their scaling isn't as good. To a certain extent, the lack of range makes it a bit wonky to try and determine, but the fight is beginning. LNG are completely cut off, as in comes a teleport from TES's 369 in the front line. Tarzan getting absolutely destroyed, pummeled, as Zenith Blade misses completely. 369 actually saved by the Devourer, as Zor flash over the wall. Ale jumping in as well, but the exhaust is there. Ale doesn't care. In between 4 people, Icon just jump in with the ultimate available, but Karsa jumping in as well. Stormbreaker just to squash the Cassiopeia, as Knight is now in the backlines. A most hectic of fights. Ale is still alive, looking to try and jump onto Jackie Love. Unfortunately, the Blade Surge was not available for him, else Jackie Love would have been absolutely toast there, as it is a 2 for 3 with Dragon still up as well, but TES looking pretty good off of their fight. So, okay, like I mentioned, LNG's early game, not exactly the smoothest, not exactly the cleanest thing that we've seen, not exactly the comfortable shot calling that we are so familiar with from their mid game. But nonetheless, I think it was a bit over eager on their part to try and start up their dragon, having not cleared out the vision, having not established their own slightly deeper vision. Respectable attempt, but yeah, it's hard to say who exactly is scaling at this point, because you know you'd expect the Cassio to do pretty decently into the Silas throughout most parts of the game, and of course, if we're being completely honest, Ale is probably going to very much overpower 369 come the later parts of this game, because it's just a lot harder to play a ranged character. Nice flash over the wall from Zor, just using his Devour, and Ale actually just absolutely man-moding in this moment. But now he's going to get Doven. There is no Stormbringer available, but Karsa will be able to land the stun as Zor jumps in with the W. Ale nearly stepping into it, really just stopped by the slow that came down from Karsa's lightning. Meanwhile, across the board, Tarzan is trying to get the dragon on the side of TES. This is a pretty late dragon at 11 minutes, but it looks like on the side of LNG, I'm sorry. And it looks like TES is going to get top tower and probably at least another charge, maybe even a second tower. This is a 600 gold injection who's looking to be coming into the bank account of 369 as the top side is entirely warded. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Knight does need to be careful as Iwanti and Tarzan are behind him. Ragnarok and Roll as well as Solar Flare is available. A bunch of careful pings is in the position as Zor is running with as much haste as his two stubby legs can propel him towards, as 369 now picks up yet another tower. Big influx of gold for him. Meanwhile, in the bot side, Light does have tons of kill pressure onto Jackie Love. In fact, Light might not even be alone as Iwandi and Tarzan now round the corner. Zor unfortunately is way too far behind to save this as in comes the flash, Xenoblade, Solar Flare, followed by the Scatter the Weak, and Iwandi and Light absolutely pairing up to perfection. Tarzan was just practically there to secure himself a nice fat check just for tagging along. And surprisingly, look at the vision across the board. Despite the direction in which LNG's jungle and support duo came from, vision is 100% in favor of TES at this point in time, both in the LNG's top side jungle as well as TES's own bot side jungle. So really, TES see everything. And in spite of that though, LNG were still able to run away with Jackie Love's life. There's really nothing he could do at that point in the game. He's an immobile carry. He didn't have flash available. He didn't even have cleanse available. And Light was just set up for the easiest scatter to the weak stun of his life. Now it looks like a little bit of rotation coming in here as TES go to the 131 as to be expected. Not much success coming out of that in the last game, but right now look at their vision controls. Absolutely superb. A straight up map hack, I suppose you could say, is Ale in a very familiar situation as being chased down yet again. The blade dance is used as a teleport is coming in. This is going to be Icon. I want these up here as well, but it looks like a little bit of a trade of fights going on. Knight has Ale's ultimate. Unfortunately, it is not an incredibly useful one now for a Lucian to have. So for a Silas to have as TES's 369 now committing under the tower, gets saved by the Devour yet again as Tarzan just gets chain CC. Stormbreaker comes in, Olaf is squashed in the top side. Knight is still alive, hasn't been touched in fact since we last saw him. Ale is completely given up on the chase, just trying to push in that top wave, which Knight will be able to collect, but if he pops like this, he's gonna get caught. I wonder he can just walk up from the river. What is he doing? Knight, there's a huge wave coming in. No, you're getting baited. Rift Herald is coming up as well. See, look, Ale is being jumped onto. Iwandi and Icon are moving now from the mid lane as we see, but they might not be here in time. As Ale trying his best to tank this up with the resistance as much as possible, but he is a little bit low on mana, jumping forward with the Blade Surge, but it is enough, and now Knight needs to be careful. Solar Flare is not available, fortunately, as Icon opted to push in the mid wave instead of get baited into another ring around a Rosie's featuring Light. And again, TES now gathering themselves some momentum, gathering a 2,000 gold lead with 3 kills and 1 tower in their advantage. Looking across the board, CS and Experience lead looks to be slightly in favor of TES in both the top and in the bot lane. Actually, surprisingly, Light is a little bit behind on XP. Let's see what happens here as, yeah, nice little flank come in from Tarzan thinking he's caught 369, but 369 sensing his impending doom just gale forces forward and just unloads onto Light, who just absolutely gets decimated. And Zor yet again with that Devour as every R button in the screen was thrown onto Tarzan with the exception of his own, I suppose, as Zor shows that despite the fact Tahm Kench has technically been nerfed as a protecting support, he hasn't been nerfed enough because he can still save people from insane tower dives. In the bot side though, 369 does need to be careful as Iwandi is wrapping around. Light is just trying to push in these waves as best as possible, and right now the game is entirely under the thumb of TES. What will they be able to do? It's only 15 minutes into the game. In 5 more minutes we will see Baron spawn, and TES are going to want to maintain as much of this pressure on the map as possible, want to maintain as much of their lead as possible. Need to be careful, however, as Zor lands gets some fangs in the face as Icon and Iwandi were both looking for a flank. It's a 3v4 situation right now. They kind of need to be careful because their flank could very well have been jumped onto here. I guess not knowing where Ale was the main reason that TES opted not to push in. In fact, Ale is playing with the Fog of War quite exceptionally well as 369 is in full vision of LNG. Dragon is spawning in 30 seconds time, but really I don't think either team is particularly interested in this. Perhaps there's some value in it being a Infernal Drake, but there's actually tons of damage in the game on the side of LNG. TES actually have a little bit of a problem because they have very like spread out moderate damage. Ashe does like not so much damage. She's in like a Vayne or an Aphelios or a Ziggs per se when she starts scaling. And of course, Knight does damage over a long duration of time. 369 needs to be constantly auto attacking. Meanwhile, Icon's damage and the later parts of the game is going to be absolutely disgusting, as is Ale's with his passive fully stacked. But it looks like they're going to be trading towers here as LNG opt to take top lane tier 3 tower. Meanwhile, 369 looks to have himself a nice little fat check yet again as Dragon goes the way of TES. The rest of the team is coming as well, but 369 is going to be able to pick himself up this fat 600 gold locked into his account. And 369 is going to be so far ahead in terms of gold over any other member in the game. I think there haven't been enough kills on any individual member to match the amount of... He got 1,200 gold across the board from top to bottom side off of just tier 2 towers. He also picked himself out a bunch of plates in the tier 3 top lane tower as well. So he's absolutely stacked. If you can see, he's got 2 items completed now. Absolutely miles ahead. Kilometers, light years ahead of any other member of the entire game, as Ale has just finished his Blade of the Ruin King, which he can use with that 3 attack proc in order to try and catch up, try his best to catch up to 369, I suppose. But now he's got another problem, that 369 has another dash with the Gale Force, as well as the ability to pack a huge punch with that Essence Reaver. And right now, Dragon is down for 4 minutes. Baron is going to be up in under 2 minutes. So we're going to have a brief period of reprieve, at least theoretically, as both teams now try to figure out how to set up for the next objective. So it's probably going to be play through mid lane and invade top side to try and establish whatever vision possible with the combo of Karsa and Zol, while having 369 pushing towards the bottom side with his teleport available, because in this situation he will most likely be relatively comfortable against Ale. If he isn't, then the entire show is flipped on its head, and it's LNG actually who are going to begin a absolutely massive comeback. And now as the 1-3-1 has been set up, interestingly enough, TES's jungle and support are not opting to get any deep invades in. I suppose they don't have enough pressure across the map. They don't have enough awareness of where exactly the members of LNG are. And as a result, look, all of them can't push. 369 has to run up towards mid lane. Knight has to dawdle a little bit in the jungle. Meanwhile, mid lane, the clear is not actually bad, with Light having his blue buff, having the ability to use his Qs, his Ws, as well as his Es in order to just absolutely one-shot the waves. But blue buff cannot last forever, and that's exactly what TES are banking on, as they just collapse from the sides, and just Knight being on the flanks with I Want this ultimate available is causing enough pressure so the LNG just completely give up the tower. Jackie Love now is trying his best to take advantage of this and push it, but it looks like LNG have perfect control of their positioning. 369 has not been spotted out on their ward, but does need to be careful because he's almost nearly being completely surrounded. If he is shown, if he gets stunned up by a Scatter the Weak, if the Petrifying Gaze catches him, he is absolutely wrecked, as in comes the culling, in comes the Solar Flare. There's a flash in from Icon. Unfortunately, only manages to get Karsa in the backlines. 369 jump in, unleash power onto him as Ale flashing right onto 369 with his ultimate, expecting a flash, I suppose, as the Blade Surge comes in, taking him out. So it's a tower for 369's life, which is a pretty decent trade, honestly, on the side of LNG, especially given the fact that it's going to be going to your side lane dueler, who I think no other member, maybe Knight, can combat her later on. But once Ale starts getting his items, once he gets his Wit's End, once he gets his Shield Bow, which I think maybe he's going for a God Drinker, but if he gets his Wit's End, he's going to be in a very, very powerful position, and very, very ready, in fact, to try and jump in onto probably anyone in the side lane. Yeah, just jump onto anyone on the side lane. And you see here, 369 just trying his best to just zone and poke at the members of LNG, but unfortunately he just gets his power unleashed upon him. And I'm guessing Ale expected him to flash, because he used his E or Gale Force at this point, but 369 had no flash. He just used it there, and Gale Force wouldn't have brought him anywhere, I suppose, as the nice ultimate coming in from Ale secures himself a kill. Looks like for now things are going to be pretty action packed, honestly, as both teams just clashing with each other like opposing forces, like the Tide as well as the Shore. The question now remains, will Tide, in this case 369 and TES, be able to overcome the consistency, the hard just fortitude of the Shore, which in this case is LNG? Because in game 1 they were being beset upon by TES from all sides, and right now coming into game 2, 20 minutes in, it's pretty much much how it's going also. LNG are just resisting the advances, and now Knight might be looking for something here, but Icon, Iwandi, as well as Tarzan are all towards this top side. 30 seconds until Dragon Spawn. If Knight dies here, this would be absolutely catastrophic. Nearly gets surrounded by the combined forces of Tarzan and Iwandi, just corralling him, trying to find the Silas, but it looks like they will try and trade tier 2 tower for the Dragon, which is only spawning in 15 seconds time. They've got a lot of time to try and make a pick on tonight to try and take down this tower as well, but TES are responding. Karsa is in the area, as is Zor. Zor has an opening, has the chance to look for a W forward, but it looks like he doesn't want to pick a fight, as 369 looks to be starting up the Dragon as soon as it spawns. The rest of his team is not there, but the solo laners of LNG are not sure where the rest of TES are, so they also can't step forward. So nice attempt coming in here from LNG to try and trade topside tower for this Dragon, but unfortunately it will come to naught, as TES are just gonna pick this up for themselves, stacking two stacks away from getting that win soul. But right now, the real objective in question is going to be this Baron. They've got some nice flanking walls already available to the members of LNG. Both the teleports are available as well. One in the topside tri-bush on TES's side, and one at the blue buff bush, nearly at the blue buff bush entrance. So they do have some avenues. I'm pretty sure Ale is the only one who's really going to be looking for a flank as he builds towards his God Drink. As the teleport comes in, that is Knight going towards the bot side, trying to pick a fight, I suppose, with Ale. Looking at his items, 2 items to 1.5, he might have a good chance. In fact, Ale is just gonna pass him completely, as Knight has no idea where the hell he's gone. But Ale now, finding Knight, is going to discover that he's in an awful position as the Abscon and Ebdak comes in. 369 as well, with the Culling coming in as well. Icon has just teleported into what appears to be his death. Maybe he can outplay this with the Fangs. In comes the ultimate, in comes the Zonias. Iwandi jumping in as well. 369 flying into nearly a solar flare. Unfortunately, was not able to save his mid laner, and things go heavily in favor of TES, as in comes Baron attempt. I'm pretty sure number 1. No melee, no solo laners for the side of LNG, not available for at least another 15 seconds. Will they attempt for this? Normally, I'd say, LPL, they always fight for the objectives, but right now, things are looking pretty dire. Members of TES are at full HP, only taking damage from Baron at this point. Tarzan does have flash available, and smites have been equalized, and it looks like he's pretty set on coming in. Whatever the week has actually tried to clear as much as possible. The vision is what's constantly being fought over here, as Knight manages to grab the solar flare. Stun coming out from Tarzan. In comes the knockup as everyone jumps over the pit. Tarzan just gets absolutely jumped onto, but he manages to absorb Jackie Love before he goes down. Just the sheer output of damage, and I think LNG have done enough. I think they've managed to hold off the Baron attempt, but TS restarting it yet again. This time Icon is going to check. Ale does have his teleport available. It's just pushing the wave. I think he has his God Drinker available. He's teleporting back right now. Let's see if he manages to pick it up. In comes the teleport. There we go. God Drinker available. 2 item power spike. Irelia. At this point, Zor is a free reset for the Blaze Surge. In comes Icon. No ultimate available for the top laner, but Icon does have the Petrifying Gaze. Down goes Baron buff as the smite comes through. Knight stepping away with his Abscon, and fortunately for the members of TES, a good, very rapid, decisive call comes in. LNG, despite their best efforts, do have to cede the first Baron over to TES, but Ale very wisely trying to shove this wave as far as possible, trying to get himself as much of an advantage as possible. So nice use of the teleport here by TES. Unfortunately, the response coming in from Icon in the mid lane was very, very delayed, and actually just resulted in him dying as well. Nice sidestep coming in from Icon. Petrifying Gaze only catching 369. If that caught Knight over there, that would have been absolutely beautiful. Icon actually a good placement with the Miasma, nearly catching out on tonight. But alas, interesting to see how Jackie Love dies over here. I think everyone just legitimately flashes over the wall. See, out comes the Stormbringer, and then Jackie Love flashes in. God Drinker just absolutely annihilates him, while just absolutely... Jackie Love just disappeared. His HP bar disappeared. Literally vanished without a trace. And I mean, not that it changes too much. I guess they had the damage output coming out from 369, who needs to be careful. That Scatter the Weak Ball might tag him out, which will definitely allow Tarzan to Ragnarok and roll right up onto him, as 369 is now building towards his Guardian Angel. Meanwhile, Karsa is going for a little bit of the tankier route, it seems. They do have light to abduct the cannon minions so that the siege is actually not so bad, but with TS playing through 2 lanes, things might not be so comfortable. Knight does need to be careful, however, as Icon is off towards the side. Ale trying trying to pull the wave away from him so that he is gonna remain out of vision as the last outer tower falls. LNG only have the claustrophobic space known as their base. Not quite sure what happened to Tarzan, as I think he misclicked quite catastrophically trying to place down a ward, so he will not have stopwatch for the next fight, and that could be key. Which, speaking of which, there are 2 Zonias in the game to keep track of, and of course we have I1, the stopwatch, to keep track of, as well as Jackie Love needs to be careful. Solar Flare comes through. Jackie Love actually kiting forward, has been caught between a rock and a hard place as Tarzan comes through. In comes the stun, but from Scatter the Weak, but the cleanse is there. Zor with his Devourer will come out with a shield. In comes the culling as Icon. I1 the absolutely tagged up. Unfortunately, Icon's Petrifying Gaze only catches one. Stormbringer comes down, brings down Light, brings down the house, brings down the tower. Ale is in a 1v5 situation. What can he do? And honestly, he manages to tag up 369. A 1-for-5 trade. I suppose that's about as worth as you can get. I'm pretty sure this game is going to go heavily in favor of TES. So it's good to see that the previous champions of the summer split have been able to adjust their playstyle, have been able to find a way to just go at LNG and Tarzan and just bring the fight to them, not just sit back and allow LNG to get into their comfort zone, get into the groove of things. I like the way they attacked Ali in that top side. Very good stuff coming out here from TES, and this just makes me even more excited to see what Game 3 has in store. TES are probably going to try to run much of the same back, but let's see if LNG now can adapt. We've seen in the game versus Suning that they're pretty good at adapting, but can they adapt against this team, TES, TES, who haven't been doing so well, honestly, but you know what? Let's just see how they do. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow for the next video. See ya!